Welcome back to Manhwa Heartbeats. Today, we'll be recapping a manhwa called Divorce is the Condition. Don't forget to subscribe, it helps us a lot. Enjoy. Clothes are scattered on the floor near the fireplace. Our main girl, Rosena Starout, lies on her back with her red cropped hair spread out on the pillow. A blonde man appears, sweating and with his shirt unbuttoned. He lays on top of her, and as the morning comes, sunlight streams into the room, shining on Rosena's face and waking her up. She sits up in bed, pulling the sheets to her chest, and a wave of realization hits her. She lost her virginity to a man she hardly knows, only remembering his name. Rosena stands up from the bed, using her clothes to cover herself. As she looks around the room, she spots a card and wonders, is this an ID card? Is it for that guy? Suddenly, her eyes widen as she connects the dots. Her name is Rosena Starout, and she comes from a wealthy family that helped found the country. Her family has produced empresses for generations, and she is the daughter of Count Starout. The powerful Starout family has come to an end, losing everything, their integrity, their innocence and more. A man pretended to be noble-minded, but this is how it all turned out. People dressed in black gather in a church, watching as a man lies in a coffin for his burial. Even the royal family stays away, not offering any condolences. The man in the box is Count Starout, wearing navy blue royal clothes. He looks tired and worn as he rests in the coffin. Rosena stands in her black outfit, feeling somber as she looks at her father. She overhears strangers talking. One person says he died from exhaustion, while another comments on how difficult his life was. Rosena whispers to her father that he shouldn't listen to them. She knows he worked harder than anyone else to protect their family. Now, she feels it's her turn to take on that responsibility. Tears fill her eyes as she says goodbye to him. But reality is never easy. Rosena's mother, Countess Marcella Starout, yells at her in her late husband's study, her voice echoing throughout the mansion. She expresses her frustration about the situation. The driver has left, and Rosena, Rosena's younger sister, stands beside their mother. Rosena sighs, reminding her mom that they don't have enough money to support all the staff. Marcella argues, insisting that getting rid of the driver isn't the solution. She questions if they should simply walk to the Marquise banquet instead. Rosena is frustrated that they would even think about going to the banquet, when they are in such a difficult position. Their mother continues to complain, saying that if anyone hears her, they'll think she's wasting their family's money on parties while she's trying to save them. She storms out of the room, asking if they need to hire a carriage. When Rosena's mother comes back into the room, she appears to have found a way out of their problems. Rosena feels frustrated and calls out to her mother. Rosena, the younger sister, is starting to tear up and tells Rosena she feels scared. She wonders if their family has really fallen so low that they are this poor now. Marcella tries to comfort Rosena, saying there is no need to worry. She assures her daughter that they have enough money to buy anything they want, especially for someone as beautiful as her. Rosena feels a sweat bead on her forehead as she listens to the conversation. Rosena then asks if she can buy that lovely dress she saw earlier, and their mother eagerly agrees, saying, of course, she can get it. With that, both Marcella and Rosena leave the room together, and Rosena is left behind, feeling a dark cloud hovering over her. She thinks about how she puts in so much effort every single day, yet her debts just keep piling up. It feels to her like she is pouring water into a bottomless pit, trying to fill it up, but never succeeding. In her heart, she knows that if she doesn't take action soon, their family will face bankruptcy. She remembers her father's promise to protect their family, and it weighs heavily on her shoulders. Later in the night, Rosena is walking through the hall, holding a blood-stained handkerchief to her nose. She thinks the nosebleed just won't stop and feels frustrated. Holding a candle to light her way through the dark castle, she makes up her mind to stay awake until dawn. She plans to visit the landowners to discuss their debts. As she moves carefully, she notices a door slightly open and decides to walk toward it. Listening closely, she hears her mother's voice. Marcella is speaking about a marriage proposal that has come their way. Although the man is a commoner, he has a lot of money. Marcella says he can pay off all their debts and provide for the family. When Rosena hears the word marriage, she feels a wave of disbelief and disgust wash over her. She is shocked by the thought of it and feels appalled. In the room, Marcella is sitting on a green settee and holding a picture of the man. Rosena looks at the picture and asks if that's the man they are talking about. She looks at the photo, scrunches her face, and says he looks like an old pig. Rosena insists she would rather die than marry someone like him. Marcella, though, laughs darkly, telling her not to worry. Instead, it is Rosena who is going to marry the man. Hearing this, panic rises within Rosena. She can't believe what she has just heard. Rosena, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes, asks if this means they will become rich again. Marcella eagerly agrees, saying they won't have to suffer anymore. Rosena feels overwhelmed and runs blindly through the halls of the castle. She cannot wrap her mind around what she has just learned. All she can think is, this is impossible. It can't be happening. She is filled with a mix of disbelief and anger. Even though Rosena is younger and often acts immature, she is still her sister, and Rosena loves her. Rosena feels frustrated that their mother always seems to favor Rosena, yet she is the one who has put in so much effort to keep the family together. In her heart, she wonders if this is the reward for her hard work. Is she really being sold off under the pretense of marriage? What has she been doing all this time to deserve this fate? With tears still in her eyes, she raises her head from the wet pillow, feeling a new sense of determination forming inside her. She starts to gather some clothes and books, putting them into a box. She thinks to herself that it's time to leave. She wants to go to a place where no one knows her name. She decides she will not sell herself for the sake of people who do not love her. Today marks the end of her foolish attachment to her family and their expectations. With newfound resolve, she grabs a pair of golden scissors and takes a deep breath. With a steady hand, she cuts her hair, signaling a new beginning for herself. Rosena steps down from the carriage, her cropped hair catching the light. She turns to the driver and thanks him for the ride. The driver smiles and says he enjoyed having her as a companion on the journey. He then asks where she plans to go next. With a playful hum, she responds that she is headed to the farthest place her feet can take her. With that, she begins walking deeper into the forest as the cart driver heads back in the opposite direction. It has been a month since she left her family behind. Rosena has a secret ability that she has never told anyone about. She can talk to animals. While this talent seemed useless when she was a noble daughter, it has been very helpful now that she is on her own, allowing her to travel safely. As she walks through the forest, the birds above greet her with cheerful tweets. The sun is setting, casting a warm glow on the trees and making the forest look like a painting. She feels like a free boy, away from the public eye, and just wants to enjoy this peaceful place for a while. Inhaling the fresh air, she smiles warmly, but her joy quickly fades when she opens her eyes and sees blood on a tree. The word blood echoes in her mind, and she feels herself go pale. A cold sweat breaks out on her forehead, as she realizes there is a strong smell of blood in the air. She thinks to herself that she needs to get out of this place quickly. Just then, a small bird tweets next to her head, and gives her hair a gentle tug. A curious squirrel pushes against her foot, and she asks her animal friends what is happening. Another bird comes and tugs at her finger, pulling her in a different direction. Rosena decides to follow her animal friends and asks where they are taking her. Just as she is about to speak again, she swallows her words, her eyes widening in surprise. In front of her, She sees a blonde boy sitting on the ground, clutching his chest. He looks like he is in pain, with sweat dripping from his forehead.
Rosena's heart races as she whispers, "Me. Helping." The blonde boy pulls his mind away from dark thoughts and panic, finally noticing the figure in front of him. Rosena kneels down and cups his face, asking if he is okay. She wants to know if he is back to his senses. He grips her hand tightly and asks her what she is doing to him. Confused, he wonders what she is. Rosena quickly explains that she is just a passing traveler. She pleads with him to let go of her hand so she can stop the bleeding. The boy is still shaking and holds onto her hand tightly. He tells her that if he lets her go, the panic will come back. Rosena asks if they are just going to stare at the wound like this. She wonders what her touch is doing to him. She tells him that she just wants to stop the bleeding and that if it's not something she can treat, she will go to the city to find a doctor. The boy screams, "No doctor." Rosena sighs, realizing how hard it is to help him. She tells him to calm down and says she will get some bandages and medicine. He looks at her with scared eyes and asks if she will come back. She assures him that she will, and he shakes his head in understanding. Rosena picks up her bag and stands up. She tells him she will return as soon as possible and reminds him to stay still. Night falls quickly, and Rosena runs through the dark forest, holding her bag and a lantern. She suddenly realizes the blonde boy is gone, and her heart races in panic. She wonders where he went and looks around. Her eyes land on blood on the grass, and she thinks about how she has already spent a month's worth of travel money. She hopes she won't lose her money and get nothing in return. Looking up at the birds, she asks them where the boy went. One bird starts to hum in the distance and leads her to him. She sees him limping on one foot as he walks. Rosena thinks to herself, "Found you." He notices her and breaks into a sweat, trembling as he asks how she found him in the dark when he didn't leave any trace. She looks at him sternly and tells him that she knows how to do that. She instructs him to show her his scars and warns that if he doesn't want to die, he needs to listen. Rosena drops the lantern on the ground, and the birds and squirrels gather around it, ready to help her. He takes off his tattered shirt to reveal some scars and marks on his body. Rosena kneels in front of him and starts to clean and treat his wounds. He groans in pain as she works on him. She asks if it hurts a lot, but he lies and says, "Oh no." Rosena thinks to herself that it must hurt a lot. She tells him to raise his hand, and he obeys, saying, "Oh yes." As she opens a bandage to wrap around his midsection, she wonders how it feels to be so close to a stranger. She notices how tough his body is and thinks that all men must have bodies like this. Suddenly, the blonde boy tilts his head, and their eyes meet. He asks her why she is looking at him like that.
Rosena feels a bit frozen in time, then quickly moves away and says, "Oh no. I was just wondering how you got hurt." He looks at her without saying anything. She adds that it's okay if he doesn't want to talk. In her mind, she thinks that if she can't even talk to a doctor, there's no way she can tell her own story. She doesn't believe he is a criminal, even though she feels unsure. He asks her why she is treating him. She takes a breath and replies, "For no reason." Then she worries about whether he might really be a bad person, thinking that the animals would have warned her if he was dangerous. He tells her that she is a stranger. She replies that anyone can see he is the strange one here. Curious, she asks him what his name is. He tells her it's Lei Den. In her head, she thinks it's just an alias. When he says her name, it sounds smooth and easy for him to say. She notices that he hasn't shared his real name yet and asks him why he is asking for her name now. He stutters for a moment before finally saying that he is Yahan. Rosena thinks it's surprising how gently he speaks. She wonders if he has an alias too. When she finishes wrapping the bandage around him, she says that she's done. She then hands him a brown bag filled with medicine and tells him to take it. She points to the vials and explains that some will help replace the blood he lost, while others will prevent infection. There's also food and clothes inside the bag. As she gets up to leave, he asks if she is really going. She replies yes, saying she has done everything she can for him. His expression darkens when he hears this, and he suddenly goes into a fit of pain. She calls his name, asking if he is okay, and if she tied the bandage tightly enough. After all, this is her first time treating someone. He leans forward and rests his head on her chest. He calls her by her fake name and says that his body hurts a lot. Then he asks if she can stay with him just a little longer. In a wooden house in the middle of the forest, Rosena thinks to herself that maybe they can just take care of each other for one night, and then go their separate ways. Yahan looks at her and asks how she found this inn. She smiles and says that she asked the animals for help. In her mind, she wonders if that will sound believable. He looks confused and asks if the animals really helped her find it. She remembers her own insecurities and thinks, am I just seeking attention? Is that scary? Shouldn't I see a doctor? She replies to him that people usually treat her like she is lying or just laugh at her. He tells her she doesn't seem like the type to make things up. She shrugs and says, okay, just sleep. Yahan lies down on the bed while she settles on the cold floor. He then suggests they sleep together because the floor is too cold. She insists it's okay, and knows he is grateful for the help she gave him when he was injured. He remembers that she said she was a traveler, right? She nods and says yes. He asks how her plans have been delayed because of him. She explains that it's okay, because she isn't on a strict journey, she just wants to go as far as she can. He responds with a soft, and then she adds that she doesn't think he is from around here either. Curious, she asks where he is from. He tells her he is from Hylar, a northern part of the continent where it is always snowing and filled with monsters. Rosena is surprised and asks how he came all the way from such a distant place to here. He trembles as he remembers something, and she notices he has gone quiet again. Let's get some sleep, she says gently. He whispers that he is running for his life, still trembling. She reaches out and takes his hand to steady him. She assures him that everything will be okay. He looks at her and smiles warmly, saying, thank you. After they fall asleep, a loud thunderclap wakes Rosena up. She notices the room is empty and quickly goes outside to find Yahan. There, he is holding a guy dressed in black, covered in bruises and cuts. She sees that the guy has blue eyes just like Yahan's. As she stares into the guy's striking blue eyes, memories flood back from her childhood. She recalls seeing similar eyes in a hunting area she frequented. His gaze sparkles with an enchanting quality, but also carries an unsettling intensity that makes her feel wary. Instinctively, she knows he is a threat, and a voice in her head urges her to run away immediately. Confusion grips her as the rain pours down around them. Despite her instincts, she steps closer, gently touching his face. He swiftly removes her shirt, prompting her to question if he's aware of what's happening. She notices the color of his eyes shifting back to that mesmerizing blue, which sends a shiver down her spine. They retreat to the room, where he positions himself above her, and their whispers fill the air as they share an intimate moment. The bright morning sun seeps through the window, stirring her from sleep. She blinks her eyes open and quickly realizes she's exposed, panic surging through her. She sits up, hastily covering herself with whatever she can find. A glimmer catches her attention, and she reaches down to pick up an ID card. As she examines it, her heart races. The royal family crest emblazoned on the card sends a wave of shock through her. Could it be that Yahan is connected to the royal family? She thinks to herself that Yahan must be from the royal family. Why hadn't she realized this sooner? His blonde hair is just like the nobles of the royal family. Her mind drifts back to something her father used to say before he passed away. He had warned her to remember his words and told her never to marry anyone from the royal family. He repeated it over and over. Because of that, She has never attended any palace parties. Her family is already disliked by the royal family, and she knows that if they discover she is Rosena, the youngest daughter of the Starout family, it would give them a reason to target her family even more. If that happens, she will have no choice but to return to her family. After she finishes getting dressed, she grabs her bag and steps out of the cottage. She calls out to her animal friends for help. She must escape immediately and get as far away as possible. But then, a large wolf blocks her path. Its fur is a mix of gray and white, and it has bright green eyes. The wolf tells her to hop on. Without hesitation, she climbs onto its back, gripping its fur tightly as she encourages it to move. She tells herself that what happened yesterday is in the past. She just wants to forget it and live her life. It feels like the royal family has some strange power over her, as if they are controlling her thoughts. The wolf asks her where they should go. She replies that they should head east, toward the sea. Today, she understands that there is no escaping the royal family in this empire. She cannot shed the title of the youngest daughter of the Starout family. If she truly wants to start a new life, she has to leave this empire for good. She declares that she is going to Estania. Soon, they arrive in the Empire of Estania, a stunning island empire hidden behind a challenging sea route. It is a golden empire where gold is as common as sand. This closed-off empire rejects foreigners and fiercely protects its ancient culture. The entry procedures are known to be very strict. No foreigners can enter unless they are fluent in the Estonian language. The guards at the border ask for the next person to come forward and show their ID. Rosena steps up and hands them her ID. One of the guards looks at it and asks if she is coming from the Herbert Empire. She nods her head. Wearing a black hood, she thinks to herself that her ability to talk to animals helped her get here. She takes off her hood and confirms that she is indeed excited to visit this beautiful empire. Learning the language of another country has always been easy for her. Dressed in a pale lavender gown, she holds her bag tightly and walks down the bustling streets of the town. She feels relieved that she got in safely. First, she wants to find a place to stay, and then she plans to visit a doctor. She wonders if her seasickness is because she spent over a month on the boat. This awful feeling hasn't gone away even after stepping onto land. As she wanders, she stops at a store because she's feeling unwell. The people there tell her she is pregnant. The word rings in her mind as she walks along the beach. Pregnant. A child from a man she met only once. It feels so strange to think about bringing a child into this world, especially in a foreign country. She imagines raising this child alone without a father, and it makes her feel sad. Can a life like that ever be happy? Should she get rid of it? Standing at the edge of the surf, she looks out at the sea and whispers to her father. Do you remember? She recalls how she had begged her family to go to the sea, and her father always promised that they would go the next year. But before that year could come, her father passed away. Her mother never made her feel like part of the family, and now she feels completely alone in this unfamiliar place. Tears fill her eyes as she trembles, but she also reminds herself that she is not truly alone. The family she has always dreamed of might just be here now. She gently caresses her stomach and thinks that no one has ever loved her before. But can she love this child? Can they be a good family for each other? Suddenly, she sees Johan standing behind her. She wonders what he would say if he were with her now. It was just one night for him, but that night changed her life forever. With determination, she whispers, "My love," and promises to do her best as a mother. Meanwhile, after Rosena leaves, Johan arrives at the cottage looking for her. He calls out her name, hiding a bouquet of flowers behind his back, wondering if she is still asleep. When he hears no answer, he calls her alias. Noticing that she is missing, he rushes out of the cottage, shouting her name and asking where she could be. Panic starts to set in as he begins to feel overwhelmed and worried. 14 years ago, Yahan lost his mother, who served the emperor. He picks up a card that reminds him of his father, and knows he must keep his royal identity a secret to avoid the empress's wrath. Kneeling in the snow, he feels the weight of his lineage and the turmoil it brings. The royal family's power forces him into a life of violence, where he hunts wild boars to protect innocent people. His sword glows blue when he fights. He just saved a woman who turns out to be his grandmother. When he checks on her, she shakes with fear and wonders if he killed a monster. The townsfolk murmur, realizing they've witnessed something extraordinary. They start to speculate about the power he possesses, noting that only those of royal blood can wield such strength. Someone remarks on his blonde hair, confirming his lineage. Realizing the danger he's in, Yahan pulls his hood up and tries to slip away, but a group of men spots him and starts to chase him. They shout and threaten to harm him. As he runs, he feels panic rising. The royal power inside him feels like a curse, and he knows it can protect him, but also make him lose control when blood is involved. Suddenly, he comes to a grim scene. He looks around and sees that all the men who pursued him are dead, their blood staining the ground. Confused and trembling, he questions whether he caused this devastation. The seizures he has been experiencing seem to be getting worse, and he wonders when the torment will end. Every time he regains consciousness, he runs away again, this time from Hala, a place that feels cold and lifeless, to the south where the trees are green and alive. But now, he has no idea where he is. Each day feels more dull than the last, and he struggles to keep his eyes open. He is scared to fall asleep, worried that he might lose consciousness forever, and turn into a monster craving blood. He lies on the forest floor, desperate and alone, and thinks to himself, "Someone, please help me." Suddenly, he remembers Leiden, the girl who approached him and gently cupped his face, asking if he was okay. He recalls how peaceful she looked while sleeping next to him in bed. He inches closer to her and thinks about how she somehow cured the seizures that have haunted him for so long. Why does she sleep so peacefully? He calls her name and wonders what her true identity is. How could she disguise herself as a man with such a beautiful face? He cups her face again, and she hums softly. He calls her his light, unable to believe she has come into his life. He doesn't fully understand what is happening, but he feels a sense of calm as long as she is by his side. Thankfully, it rained recently, washing away the blood from their last encounter. But he knows the smell still lingers. He wonders if hiding the bodies will help them avoid the Empress's hunters for a while. Could breaking some branches help mask the scent? As he thinks about these things, he suddenly realizes that Leiden is missing. He rushes out, shouting her name, panicking as he calls for her. Where did she go? It feels like she vanished without a trace, as if she was never there at all. Why didn't she tell him she was leaving? Did she think he would put her in danger, because the assassins were after him? Leiden, please, where are you? He cries out. He wonders if she regrets how informal he was with her from the start. Maybe she left, because he is a monster who kills people. He searches for Leiden until sunset, but it's hopeless. He has completely lost her, and he feels powerless. He lacks the strength and wealth needed to find her in this vast empire. Falling to his knees, he trembles and whispers under his breath, tears streaming down his face as he begs for strength. Then the scene shifts to a red castle where Yahan stands before a man dressed in red, sitting on a red throne. The man looks at him, and Yahan waits nervously. Finally, the man speaks, questioning Yahan's claim that he is his son. Yahan replies, "Yes, that's right." Rosena gets ready to leave her home. Her hair has grown long, and she wears a dark brown outfit while carrying a briefcase. A young boy with blonde hair and bright red eyes calls out to her from the corner. He hugs her tightly and asks where she is going. Rosena smiles and tells him he can sleep a little longer, but he insists he doesn't want her to go. Her son, Ilian, is 6 years old. He is small and takes his time with everything. She picks him up and explains that she is often late. Working hard will allow her to buy him delicious food. He blushes at the thought of treats and says he wants to play with her. Rosena knows that he is weak because he was born too early, and she feels guilty that his speech and learning are slow. She hasn't been able to take care of him properly due to her job. She assures him that if he waits patiently, they can go on a picnic together after work. Ilian kisses her cheek, making her laugh, and she feels happy about their future plans. Rosena is heading to the kingdom of Estania, where she will work as a governess for the Helys family. She earned this job because she is fluent in many foreign languages, which is rare among the nobles of Estania. The Marquis of Helys and his wife are interested in learning about the empire's culture and language, making her a suitable choice. As she prepares to leave, a young girl rushes toward her, calling her name excitedly. It's Kayla, the youngest daughter of the Marquis. Kayla is eager to see her and asks if she brought something special. Rosena smiles and pulls out a newspaper from her briefcase, explaining that she got it from a merchant. Kayla's eyes light up with excitement when she sees the Herbert Empire newspaper, filled with curiosity about the happenings in the empire. She has a strong interest in the empire, inspired by her parents, who have always talked about it as a place to escape to. Rosena looks at the newspaper and notices that there are many difficult words in it. She asks Kayla if she can read some of them. To Kayla, it feels like reading about a magical land from a fairy tale. Kayla excitedly agrees and points out an article about Hyla, saying that a large monster appeared there and devoured dozens of people. Rosena feels her heart drop as she remembers Hyla. Kayla continues to explain that, thankfully, the crown princes managed to defeat all the monsters. Rosena thinks to herself that one of those princes is from Hyla. Kayla looks at her with eager eyes, hoping for praise. Rosena realizes she should focus on class and tells Kayla that she is amazing. She says Kayla's pronunciation of the imperial language has really improved. Kayla beams with pride and thanks her, but then she asks what subjugation means. Rosena explains that it means to suppress or control something. Kayla thinks that's amazing and wonders if the crown prince must be really strong. Rosena tells her that the Herbert family possesses the power of divine beings. She explains that demons can't be harmed by regular weapons, but can be defeated by divine power. She adds that the crown prince was born with exceptionally strong abilities. Then, she asks if they should read the title of the next article. Kayla nods excitedly and says yes. The next article talks about an illegitimate son, saying that Prince Shim still suffers from severe mania. Kayla raises her hand and says she doesn't even know what illegitimate son means. Rosena hesitates, wondering if it's okay to explain. Finally, she says that an illegitimate child is one born to someone outside of marriage. Kayla gasps and asks if that means the third prince isn't the Empress's biological son. Rosena confirms this, saying that the Emperor's son, who was born outside of the marriage, returned to the palace a few years ago. Kayla is amazed and exclaims that it sounds like something out of a novel. She begs Rosena to tell her more about the third prince. Rosena reminds her that they need to focus on their next class, but Kayla insists that the rumors are the most entertaining part. Rosena agrees that they can discuss the rumors and then take their vocabulary test. Kayla calls Rosena the best teacher, even though she feels a little scared about the test. Rosena shares that the third prince is said to avoid people because of his violent insanity. Kayla is curious about what insanity means, and Rosena adds that there are rumors saying he is so hideous that he never leaves his room. Meanwhile, Ilian is sitting at the foot of a tree, reading a novel. He thinks about how his mom is late and wishes she would hurry back. He realizes that he has finished reading all the books they have at home, and now he feels bored. The neighborhood kids nearby notice him and start making fun of him while he reads. Ilian rolls his eyes and thinks that they are so annoying. The kids wonder if he just cursed, thinking he might not understand their words, or if he is just being quiet, because he can't hear them. Ilian ignores the kids and goes inside his house. As he's closing the door, one of the kids makes a rude comment about his mom's shape. That makes Ilian really angry. He grabs a book and throws it at them, warning them not to talk badly about his mom. The kids start accusing him of pretending to be mute, but in his head, Ilian admits that he just doesn't want to talk to people who treat foreigners badly. One of the kids shouts that he won't let Ilian get away with this and threatens to tell his dad. The kid cries that they will all be kicked out of their country. Just then, Rosena walks in and sees the commotion. She calls out to Ilian, asking what is going on. Ilian quickly lies, saying he was sleeping and that the kids came to bother him. The kids look surprised by his response, and Rosena kneels down to comfort her son. She then turns to the kids and warns them to leave Ilian alone. Ilian gives the kids a dirty look, as he thinks about how hard his mom works. He knows she is doing both the mom and dad jobs all by herself. He feels that if he doesn't act tough, she might not have time to play with him or give him attention. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and ensure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time.